From the Homestead Studios in Santa Clarita, California, this is a Headache Soul production. Welcome to Just the Tip-Sters, America's favorite true crime podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Morgan. With me today is my handsome and talented co-host, Joshua Seaweed Bevan.
Seaweed?
Floats around and does fuck all.
Oh, man. That's too accurate.
Yeah. It is, isn't it?
That's my karmic goal, actually.
Is to be seaweed.
Like,
float around, do fuck all.
Some people want to come back as a cat. I want to come
seaweed.
back as seaweed.
Just floating in the ocean, getting tangled up in people's legs, whatever. Just, yeah. God bless you.
Yeah.
I'm glad you like that one. Brings me much joy to figure out your nickname of the week. Yeah. Makes me very happy. So this episode is brought to you by our friends at Graveline Tours. You can go to graveline.rip and in the promo code put Tipster40 and get 40% off of any of the tours you would like to go on if you happen to be in the Southern California area. And there are a plethora of them. And Joshua and I can recommend some of them, and some of them we haven't had the chance to be on yet, but we're gonna try and do all of them.
Stoked.
Yeah. I think it's the end of June now that we're gonna try to get the Black Dahlia.
Cool. Good.
When our visitor is in town.
Okay.
So
Sweet.
yeah, it's like I think it's the last week in June. So I'll make sure you know.
Yeah.
And just so you don't have to run behind the hearse. Wait for me. Oh, sorry, Joshua. You know those things don't go fast.
You said.
I know. I lied. Girls trip. We're hanging out the windows.
I could just, I'll follow it around in my own car.
Yeah.
I'll get
Wonder what's happening here. I can't hear.
I'll get an Uber and just
that would
follow
be very
the hearse.
expensive. Very expensive. Follow the large Cadillac funeral coach.
And I'll sit in the passenger seat with like one of those like microphone things listening.
Oh, so you can hear?
Yeah, because I'll try and hear.
Yeah, because you're not going to be riding with us.
Yeah.
No. Not up in the good car. No. That would be funny. That's how I planned it, actually.
Yeah.
I like that. That sounds good. So I wanted to say a special thank you to my friend in my Crime Analysis 102 class, Fernando, who prefers to be called Monster. And I may have mentioned him after 101, because that's the first time I met him. Young, handsome young man. And I thought he might be mentally ill because he came in, said late, about 45 minutes late, said his name was Fernando, but that he preferred to be called Monster. And I was like, okay, this guy's totally normal. But he is very smart and very sweet. And he showed up on Tuesday night for our Tuesday night class 102. The second part of the intro to crime analysis. And he had a book for me called Cops, Crooks, and Criminologists.
So sweet.
And I was like, what is this? And he goes, this is for you. And I was like, where did you get this? And he said, there was a book sale at my local library. And I was like, will you let me pay you for it? And he said, no, this is a gift for you.
Aww,
so is that not the
really
sweetest
sweet
thing? So I now have a friend named Monster. I
As
call
you
you
should.
Monster all the time, but it means something different.
Oh, well, yeah.
Means something very, very different. Yeah, I'm not sure why. Really he's the least monstery person I've ever met. I don't know why he wants to be called Monster.
Is it like they call the bald guy Curly and the fat guy is Slim?
Oh, I hadn't thought about it. Really... I mean, he probably could be a tough, but he's not. He's a sweet kid.
Maybe he just really likes the energy drinks.
Oh, I've never seen him drink one, but that, it could be something like that. It was just so funny, Monster. It's like, I wonder where that came from. I will ask him. At first I was like, I don't want to know. I don't need to know your shit, mister. But he's such a sweet kid.
Right.
And he does ask good questions. He's very street smart.
Okay.
So at first couple of questions that he asked in class, he's very inquisitive. I was like, oh my God, this kid. But then he started asking things that was like, oh, you know what? He's right. I hadn't thought about it that way. So he comes from a different perspective, and he's a good kid. He's a good kid. So
sweet.
Can't wait to dig into my book, which is adorable. Cops, Crooks, and Criminologists.
Nice.
So cute. Such a sweet. Yeah, it's a big book too. Looks like it could be like a textbook or something.
Yeah.
So weird. Yeah. It's so weird. They have like book sales at libraries, and it's like you never know what you're going to get.
Right. Yeah.
I know our local library has like fill a bag for $5 or something.
Yeah, when their stock gets a certain spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know a lot
Those
of
are
friends who filled a bag for $5.
yeah. Well, I mean, inflation is 7 now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Oh,
but it's still a great
back when
deal.
I heard about it, it was 5.
Yeah.
So back in the olden days, it was $5.
Thanks a lot, inflation.
Yeah, really. Thanks Obama. Jinx, owe me a Coke. That's funny. That's hilariously funny. I'm so glad we said that at the same time. So this case was sent to us by Tipster Charlotte, and it is, one of the weirdest things I've ever heard. And when she sent it, I was like, oh, Charlotte, why? And then it was like something I would never want to cover. And then I read into it. I'm like, oh, that's why. Oh, before we get into this, I have to say, I totally forgot. I need to say a special thank you to Tipster Julie, who sent me the sweetest email. Julie is a Northern Kentucky native and resident, and she sent me a beautiful email with a case that probably doesn't need my help because I believe the missing young person was found. But it was so sweet of her to think of me. And the interesting part was she said a police officer friend of hers told her about the podcast. And I was like,
Ooh.
wonder who that is. And while I'm saying this, before we get into the actual story that Charlotte sent us, if you feel so inclined, please go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating or review. I just don't know what is happening, but I would be really happy to have some more ears on this podcast. So yeah, if you know someone who you think might enjoy this, like the officer friend of Julie who said, hey, check this out. And she said, I've been a long time fan, which is just the sweetest thing. So if Julie tells 2 friends and if you tell 2 friends, I would really appreciate it. And if you are a listener to this podcast, if you could go to Apple Podcasts, if you listen on Apple, and leave us a rating or review, we'd be really, really grateful. That's how people find us, and we could use some finding.
Totally.
Yeah.
Please.
So thank you. Yeah, please. Thank you.
Please
or else
I'm
going to have to fire Joshua. Or at least cut his salary.
Cut it in half.
How do you cut 0? I don't know. How do I pay you negatively? That means you have to pay me. Oh my God. All right. I'm thinking now maybe that's a good business model.
That's it. I'll pay you to come.
Yeah, really, come and talk. That'd be great. Hi, can I come and talk with you today? How much is it going to cost me? And you know what? It'll be different every day. Like the stock market, it'll be
perfect.
Yeah, some days it's higher, some days it's lower,
and it's all based on this subscribe.
Maybe
downloads.
Or how many reviews and ratings we get.
Oh, okay.
So if you want Joshua to not have to pay me, do Joshua a favor and give us a rating and review.
I don't know if liking me is the best sales method. Maybe
let's think of it like a fun drive during like PBS week. It's like, do you want Joshua to keep his job and not have to pay Melissa?
I can't.
I know you can't. You're trying. I can see, and you're getting there.
I was really gonna try to do the PBS voice, but I can't do it when I'm laughing so hard.
Yeah. So if you don't want poor Josh, and then we play like Sarah McLachlan, right. The arms of the angel. If you call today, if you do a rating review today,
leave a review today.
Yeah.
This hour only.
You get a tote bag.
Oh, that'd be actually really cool.
With a picture of Joshua's face,
my face,
smiling,
like pleading,
right? No, smiling. And if you don't, we send you a tote bag where he's crying. The picture is crying. So.
Either way, whether you like me or not, leave the review.
You can leave a rating and review.
You can leave the rating and review, and say 5 stars, except for that asshole.
Except for that guy. I got a tote bag with his face on it, and it's fucking freaking me out.
Can we just shut him the hell up?
No one says that. You stop that. It's because of generous people like you and the Margaret T. and Stanley B. Smith Foundation that we are able to continue to do this podcast and bring you this quality content.
We have 1 more hour left on on our goal.
Right.
If we can match,
Right.
we can get matching
Right.
reviews.
Matching reviews. All 5-star
We-
matching reviews. So it looks like they're done by bots.
Oh,
Just
God.
like,
I'm sure that's a
this
thing.
is a great podcast. Oh my God, are you kidding? I am so dumb. I had no idea. People told me, people with like hundreds of thousands of reviews, it's like those were all purchased. And I'm like,
Sure.
what? How do you purchase a review? And I guess you can, but
Oh, you totally can, but I'm imagining that all the bot ones, the
there's similar
algorithm
wording.
can
No,
suss those
I don't
out,
think
though.
so. I think things like Apple, you would think they'd be on the forefront of getting rid of shit, but they're not.
Well, I don't know that they necessarily get rid of it, but I'm saying that's not going to help them.
Oh,
Like, it's not going to boost their.
oh. Well, it's already popular ones, and I don't know why they needed more.
Sure.
But literally, if you have 200,000 ratings and reviews, and all of the usernames are like 5,000 letters in a row and a couple numbers,
Right.
what? Yeah, right.
PCX46
Right.
says.
You're right. Love you, girls. Yeah. Okay.
Sounds great!
Yeah.
Exclamation point.
Exactly. It's almost like you've read a few. Yeah, it's super weird. So we would be very grateful for any ratings and reviews. And I promise I have jumper cables hooked up to Joshua's nipples. And if you don't give us a good rating and review, I hit the button. That's all I'm saying. And it goes up to a 10.
Please,
So, right.
please hit the. Please just hit like and
You know what?
subscribe today.
We're gonna do a photo shoot where you're in Siren's crate and it looks like you're out in the snow and there's like no blanket and you're like, sorry, I'm trying to combine
the review.
I'm trying to combine PBS and ASPCA. It's terrible. All the initials. I know. I gotta stop
I'm
it.
getting tortured now.
Right.
I don't know where this all.
Yeah. Just fucking review, will you please? So nothing bad happens to Joshua, and he doesn't have to pay me.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, right. Totally. Yeah. Really. And a little yelp. All right. Stop it. So,
okay, I'm done.
this was sent to us by our beautiful tipster Charlotte. And at first I was like, Charlotte, why? Why are you doing this? But the more I dug into it, I was like, I get it, Charlotte. So Charlotte has this incredible brain. Charlotte is an educator and she likes strange cases. And
Okay.
I sometimes forget that about her. And the things that she finds for us are like, oh, I mean, they're the deepest, weirdest, most layered mysteries. And this absolutely qualifies. This is, again, I'd heard of it and then just sort of like let it go out of my brain. But the more I dug into it, I was like, I get why this is a Charlotte case because it's super interesting. And I don't, know that there's anyone who's going to hear it, who's going to have information, but you never know. I mean, there has been some theories that have come up in over the decades here that it's like, oh, and I absolutely believe there's someone who knows something because there are a couple of witnesses, which is super strange. But there were incidents that happened that maybe make you think the witnesses' memories may be compromised.
Oh,
So
okay.
this is the really odd case of the Yuba County Five. So Yuba City in Northern California. These 5 young men went missing in February of 1978. Now, what makes it interesting is that 4 of them have been found. However, this is layered in a way I don't exactly know how to explain, except these 5 men had differing amounts and diagnoses of mental disabilities and mental illness.
Okay.
They were 5 young men who were friends. So Gary Mathias, who, by the way, has never been found. Jackie Hewitt, Jack Madruga, Ted Ware, and Bill Sterling. All these guys are friends, and they range in age from like 25 to 32. Two of them were in the military. They were, cogent enough to get into the military.
Okay.
Two of them drove, had driver's licenses,
Okay.
full-time jobs. Three of them, some of them had like medicine they had to take every day.
Okay.
They were all in 1978. I mean, we have so many different classifications for people now.
Sure.
It was different, but
Right.
they were all sort of classified as mentally disabled.
Okay.
I don't know if that
Like a
means
catch-all or something.
maybe they had IQs of 80 or under or something, or maybe, again, some of them had medications. Gary was schizophrenic
All
and
right.
had to take meds every day. And the fact that he hasn't been found is, we have some theories at the end of this that you're going to hear that it's like, I don't know if I believe any of that shit, but, they're all somewhere. If back in 78 we had a spectrum, let's call them somewhere all on the spectrum,
All right.
which I don't dislike that term, but I think everything is a spectrum, and I think we're all on the
Sure.
spectrum somewhere or another. I Ironically, I have several friends who were diagnosed as having Asperger's or autism in their
Hmm.
adulthood.
Sure.
And I've diagnosed everyone in my life as being, having Asperger's, including
Oh,
myself.
right.
I mean, I'm like, think when you look
Sure.
back, when you get to be my age, you look back and you're like, oh, that's why I didn't fit in.
Oh, totally. Well, yeah. I was actually just texting with my brother this morning. Like, we were talking about a mutual acquaintance, and that I have interacted with maybe 10 times. He has interacted with him a, a lot more, but not, a ton. And he said, "Yeah, I think he's on the spectrum." And I went, "Oh, okay. I thought he was a little weird, but then yeah, like once you're saying that, yeah." He said he said something like, "Yeah, he has just learned how to communicate with
Oh,
really well with people, but yeah, he's kind of awkward." And
right.
like,
Socially
huh,
awkward.
okay. But and has a very successful career, and
Right.
like, oh, I got it. He's I just kind of thought he didn't like me much or
Right.
whatever. He was a little weird to me. But yeah, now that you say that, okay,
That makes sense.
that's yeah, he's kind of somewhere on the spectrum and just gotten through his stuff by
Right.
learning how.
Right. And most of the people I know that were diagnosed were people I wasn't really sure. I wouldn't say I wasn't sure they shouldn't be, but I was like, oh, and a few people are like, oh, I get it now. But they're all so unique and different. Like,
Sure.
they're all brilliant. Some of them are very emotional and affectionate, and some of them are
Yeah.
very standoffish and don't want to be hugged. It's so fascinating, the difference in them. But the one through line is they're all brilliant.
Yeah.
These, five young men, they were called the boys,
Okay.
because they all hung out together. And I think they were sort of introduced because they lived in Yuba City. There may have been like a church thing and maybe like services that they all
Got it.
got to, they were in a similar age group, 25 to 32, not too far away, but
Okay.
and they liked certain things like sports and things, and they also, I think, found each other through the Special Olympics because
Okay.
they were all athletic and or fascinated by athletics.
Got it.
They really loved sports and they loved to go to sports events together.
Okay.
Okay. So these five young men, again, two with full-time jobs, and people are debating so many times online. It's like, how did they have jobs? How could they you couldn't be mentally disabled and have a job? And I'm like, that's ridiculous. Driving a truck, like Gary Mathias drove a truck in the army. I don't see how that couldn't be a job, you know.
Sure.
It's like they both, two of the adult males had driver's licenses. Okay.
Okay.
doesn't mean, you know,
Sure.
I mean, you can get a driver's license when you are hearing impaired.
Yeah. I mean,
There's a lot of ways that, that you can function in the world.
okay.
So it's very fascinating to me. So these five men were going to compete in a special event that was hosted by the Special Olympics in Sacramento. And if you won this competition, you got a week-long trip to Los Angeles. And these five
Oh,
men were so like motivated. They're like, we're going to win.
nice.
We're bringing this prize home. We are so going to win. So, but the night before they would have competed in this Special Olympics competition, they went to a basketball game in Chico. They were going to go to this basketball game in Chico, and Jack Madruga drove. He's one of the ones that had a driver's license.
Okay.
He and Gary Mathias. I find it fascinating that in 1978 there's surveillance footage from a convenience store.
Oh, okay.
I did not know about convenience store. I mean, I was a kid
Sure.
and I never thought about that. Maybe it's
Right.
because it's California and it was more progressive than, Kentucky, because I don't know when surveillance became
I mean, these guys got to be on the forefront, right? In
right. I would think
78?
so.
Yeah.
I thought that was fascinating, but
But
they did find surveillance footage of them buying snacks and chocolate milk
nice.
at a convenience store
Okay.
after the basketball game. So they had made it to the basketball game, seen the basketball game, and were driving home from Chico to Yuba City. And the surveillance video is likely the last time. I don't want to say anyone saw him alive because you're going to hear about a couple of witnesses that may or may not.
Okay.
It's just so odd.
Okay.
So the next morning, when they have not returned home, Jack Madruga's mother places a missing person report. Where are the boys? There's this, days long search. It's February.
Okay.
It's cold. It's snowy. There was a snap snowstorm in that area, and Jack Madruga had a Mercury.
Okay.
The car was a Mercury.
All right.
It wasn't old. It wasn't brand new, but it wasn't old, and it was roadworthy.
Sure.
There wasn't like a problem why it wouldn't have made it,
Right.
except for the snowstorm. So all of these young men, the boys, let's call them, that's what their parents called them, they all lived at home with their parents.
Okay.
So all their parents the next morning are like, where are our kids? I mean, they're adults. Where are our boys?
Right.
The boys. So there's this, very big search. It had to be called off due to the storm, but they, really spread out trying to find them. On the 27th of February, the police it's actually the U.S. Forest Service, find Jack Madruga's car stuck in a snowbank.
Okay.
In the Plumas National Forest. I don't know where that is. Do you know where that is?
I don't know that.
Okay. So remember, they're driving from Chico, from this convenience store in Chico, back to Yuba City. I guess it's about 50 miles. It's about 50 miles.
Okay.
Yeah. So they were at the California State University at Chico to watch the basketball game. And Jack's car is found in the Plumas National Forest on February 27th on a remote road. And that's 50 miles in the opposite direction of the route they would have taken. So the last time the car was seen, they were headed toward Yuba City from Chico.
Okay.
They end up...
That convenience store is on the way back?
Yes. It was in Chico. They stopped to load up on snacks before the drive home.
But it's in the correct direction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the way, from the surveillance, the way the car was headed was toward Yuba City.
Got it.
They are found 50 miles in the opposite. Sorry, the car is found 50 miles in the opposite direction.
Gotcha.
And you're going to hear they're found near.
All right.
There. It seemed, like there was no evidence that they'd been in an accident. They didn't, it was like the car got stuck,
Hmm.
and it seemed that they didn't try to move the vehicle. And I'm going to tell you, when you're talking about people with disabilities, people have so many theories,
Mm-hmm.
but these were 5 healthy, strong grown men who, had 2 had been inducted into the military, 2 had driver's licenses. They've all played organized sports. There is trying to figure out the level in 1978
Yeah.
of the word disability
Right.
is difficult,
Sure.
especially when you hear how some of them were found. This is just like one of the biggest. Thanks a lot, Charlotte. One of the biggest mysteries, 5 young, healthy men could have like lifted the mercury out of the snowbank.
Pushed it to
Mm-hmm.
the road. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of like, well, what happened? It got into the snowbank and then, oh, well, we give up.
And then,
Right.
okay.
There was still a quarter tank of gas, and that has also been debated. So couple of people said, I heard that there was no gas. Many, many more reports said that there was a quarter tank of gas
Okay.
when they were able to hotwire it to start it, because the keys were gone.
Got it.
It was like, oh, it started right up. There wasn't like a battery issue. There
Okay.
wasn't like damage, and there was gas. One of the places that has the list of what was right with the car is the Washington Post. I trust them pretty much.
Okay.
It's not like,
Sure.
the Yuba City Bee or whatever. It's, what I
Right.
mean? It's a publication I
Just for
trust.
real. Okay.
So the keys were gone, which I'm guessing Jack would have, maybe just taken the keys
Taking
so
you
like no
walk.
one could steal it or something.
Sure.
I mean, so there's some thought going on. It's just that the way that several of them are found, it's like, what happened? What? When you hear
Hmm.
how they could have probably survived until the snow even melted, you'll
Right.
hear. So police are just really surrounding the woods in the Plumas National Forest because the mercury is found in a snowbank. They did have to stop a few times because of this brutal winter storm, but they are like, look, we'll find
Right.
them, we'll get there. In the meantime, a man named Joseph Shans comes forward with a story about February 24th, which is the night that they assumed that the car got stuck. And he says that he had been on that same remote road, and he was looking to check on his cabin in the forest, and he also got stuck in a snowbank.
Oh.
He was trying to free his vehicle, and he suffered a heart attack.
Oh no.
So he collapses on the ground and he's unable to move. At 11:30, don't ask me how he knew the time unless he looked at his watch, he noticed headlights on the road,
Okay.
and he said that several men got out of the car along with a woman who was holding a
Hmm.
baby, and he yelled for help.
Okay.
He said that the group stopped talking and then they disappeared. And then he saw flashlight beams again 2 hours later, and no one ever came to his assistance.
Huh.
He said he sees headlight beams. He hears voices,
Yeah.
3 men, a woman, and a baby.
3 men, a woman, and a baby.
Mhm.
Okay.
2 hours later, he sees headlight beams again, and no one ever came to help him.
Was he able to Was he able to shout or whatever? I mean, or
Yes.
okay. So
So
those people may have known he was there, or maybe
he
they
said
didn't
they
hear
were
him.
talking, and he's like, hey, hey, help me. And they stop talking. And then he says they disappear
Hmm.
into the woods.
Okay.
2 hours later, they come back.
Hmm.
Help me. They ignore that. Their lights come on. They leave.
Hmm. Okay.
Now, you're making great points.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm curious here.
He recovers enough that he can make his way down the mountain to ask for help. And when he takes the police back to where the car that he said, pulled over and was talking, it's exactly where the Mercury had been.
Okay, and the Mercury was there.
No, it had then been moved.
Oh, there. Oh.
But he's like, it was right here. And they're like, oh, that's where the Mercury was found.
Huh.
He recovered and got down the mountain, went to the hospital, recovered, and then said, hey, by the way, this thing happened.
Oh, okay. So recovered weeks later.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then and at that point they had already towed the Mercury out. I got you.
Or they'd driven it out, whatever.
It out.
Exactly. Okay. So now here's some theories. Could he have been in a pain-induced like psychosis?
Okay.
Right. It's a little bit weird. It's a lot weird.
Okay.
Other theories are 2 of the men had long hair. Maybe the woman he thought was a woman.
Oh, it was one of the men.
Right. And maybe a baby was one of the younger men who had like a high-pitched voice or something.
Okay, so he's hearing.
Right.
Okay. It could have been. Okay, so he's, instead of 3 men and a woman and a baby, it could have been all 5 men, and he just heard wrong, saw wrong a little bit.
It's weird to me.
Far away in the snow.
Yeah.
Light conditions in the snow.
Well, it's nighttime, right?
Yeah, it's not. So you're not going to be able to see very well.
Right.
Very far.
Right.
So.
And Gary Mathias had very, very distinctive thick glasses.
Okay.
Which is an interesting point, that his father went looking in the area and he said, I know that bears wouldn't eat his glasses. That's the sweetest thing, that his dad was like, I'll find him by his glasses.
Wow.
Right. So, June 4th of 1978. There's some motorcyclists, and they are driving on trails in the Plumas National Forest, and they come upon a Forest Service trailer that's 20 miles into the woods and 20 miles from where Jack Madruga's car had been discovered.
Okay.
They open the door and they are, surprised to see the body of Ted Ware stretched out on the bed. He's wrapped in sheets and his feet were severely frostbitten. So it's 3.5 months later.
Wow.
His body was emaciated, and the length of his beard suggested he'd been alive for 2 to 3 months after disappearing.
Oh.
He was clean shaven when he left.
Oh.
Your beard doesn't grow after you die, so.
Yeah, it doesn't grow. Right. I think
the skin recedes. That's why they used to think out. You were a witch in the if your nails grew and your hair grew. Yeah, they were like, she's a witch. No, it's because you're 75% water, and then when you die, the skin recedes.
Right.
Yeah, but to have a beard that grew, he was alive for a while.
Okay,
and he had lost between 80 and 100 pounds off his 200-pound frame.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
He laid there and starved to death, maybe because his feet were frostbitten and he couldn't walk.
Huh.
Yeah. So he was in the trailer. He had broken into the trailer. He hadn't opened a locker that was in a shed. This is a Forest Service camp up in the snowy mountains. And it had enough food to feed all 5 men for more than a year.
Oh, whoa.
He had not used any matches or fuel or the propane tank that was in another shed to try and keep the trailer warm.
Okay.
He just spent months waiting to die, I guess.
Wow.
So the next day, investigators find the remains of Jack Madruga and Bill Sterling in the woods, and they're several miles away. Animals had eaten part of their bodies, and it was unclear if they had ever reached the trailer. Shortly after, Jackie Hewitt's shoes and spine were discovered 2 miles from the trailer, and his skull was located 100 yards away from that.
His his skull was okay.
His skull was disarticulated from his spine. His shoes and spine were found 2 miles from the trailer. Jack and Bill were, several miles away.
Okay. Is the
And
head, is that something that like after he died is an animal could have dragged,
yeah,
okay, like already
skulls are found a lot. I'm going to say this, and I know what's going to happen. You're going to laugh, but I know.
because I'm
No,
that messed
no,
up in the
because
head.
it's funny. And when someone said it to me, I thought they were fucking with me. Raccoons love to play with skulls because they're like round
Oh,
like a
like a
rock.
ball.
And I
Yeah.
go, what do you mean? Like, are they taking like their little fingers and like bowling?
My God.
And this is someone who goes on the search for a lot of people.
Uh-huh.
So teeth, skulls, and I will tell you something else. Shoes, because a lot of them are rubber
Oh,
sole, it doesn't disintegrate as quickly.
sure.
And I love the fact that Gary Mathias's dad was like, I will find him by his glasses.
Oh yeah, okay.
So I'm showing Joshua a picture. He has very, very thick glasses.
Yeah.
They were very specific, probably when he was in the military.
Yeah, those look
Very
like GI
thick.
issue.
Yeah. But they're
Yeah.
very thick. He probably had vision issues. So, and he was the one that was on meds for schizophrenia. So, yeah. Okay, so here's what's interesting. Gary Mathias's shoes were found in the trailer, but Gary Mathias has never been found.
Huh.
Now, there are 2 different reports, and when it's 1978, this bothers me because I want to know what it is. Some people say sneakers, some reports say boots. But either way, I'm just going to say his footwear was found in the trailer with Ted Ware.
Okay.
So he was there at some point.
All right.
He is nowhere, not even his bones scattered, nothing of his. And like I said, his poor dad is searching the forest. I'll find bears are not going to eat his glasses. I thought that was pretty interesting. It breaks your heart. I don't think a bear is going to eat my son's glasses. I'm going to look for my son's bones.
Wow.
It's so, So there's like special agents from the, California Department of Justice that are like, we have no explanation for what happened. There were also tons of paperback books in the trailer. They could have burned those for warmth.
Okay.
Like a bunch of them that would have kept them warm for a while. To know that there's a locker not far from the trailer with a lot of food.
Yeah.
If Ted Ware can't get there because his feet are frostbitten, I get it. But the other 4,
right.
If
they made it there,
they did. Like Ted Ware was on a cot wrapped up in blankets, like someone tucked him in.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
So this is interesting. The family members of the boys say something nefarious happened.
Yeah.
They don't believe it was just, an accident kind of thing, a terrible accident. It makes sense that of the 5 of them, someone could have come up with something to help save them.
Yeah.
Someone, after a while, you're hungry, you go looking what's in the shed. Oh my God, look, there's propane and matches and the things Forest Service people would need to survive.
Sure.
And enough, supplies to feed the 5 men for a year, which they wouldn't have needed a year for the snow to melt.
Right. And a radio?
That I don't know.
I mean,
that wasn't listed.
That would be my
right.
If I'm lost in the woods in the snow.
Right.
Yeah. First thing. Okay, cool. Here's a trailer and second thing. Okay, let's light a fire in that stove.
Right.
And then let's start rummaging through and find food.
What can we use to survive?
And communication. Take care of the, couple of days worth of whatever help my friend who's frostbitten.
Right.
But yeah, is there a radio around, or is there
Right.
some sort of something?
Right.
Okay. I guess it's possible there's not.
Maybe
Like the Forest Service would bring
their
supplies
own,
in and
like
out.
their own radio with them
Yeah.
or something. You know what I mean? They'd have it on their truck or their body, or
Yeah.
yeah, maybe there wasn't an extra one there. There was just supplies, needed to use if you really got stuck there.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, it is hard for me to picture that 5 of them, no matter what their disabilities, couldn't have figured out how to
Yeah.
survive for a couple of days, and then their car would have been found, and,
Right.
even though it was, found in 50, so their parents were like, "Why would they be 50 miles in the opposite direction?
Sure.
Why would they have scattered in the woods like, you know, Jack Madruga's mother's like, why would they be scattered in the woods like quail?
Oh
Like
wow.
somebody shot a
Ouch.
gun and they all scattered." And it wasn't exactly like that, but it's super strange that Gary Mathias's footwear was found in the trailer, but
Yeah.
Gary Mathias has never been found.
Hmm.
That's super weird. Ted could have starved to death, and he couldn't have gotten up to get food because of the frostbite.
Right.
I don't know. All I can tell you is that a large number of people that go missing, singular human beings who go missing, a lot of people are like, they were murdered. No, they got lost. They got off a trail. They ended up dying
Right.
from either dehydration or whatever. And it happens so much more often than you think. And you think everything is nefarious.
Right.
And it's not always.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
this was snowy conditions.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, you know. So here are some theories,
Okay.
you
Please.
know. Um, Gary had a friend who lived in Forbestown. So if you look at a map, he may have decided to go, they were like, these young boys were going to drive straight up there and then drive straight home. They're young men and they're on a road trip together. And maybe
Sure.
they all live with their parents. Maybe they were tasting a little bit of freedom,
Sure.
and maybe they
Okay.
wanted to
That's
take a detour, and maybe they got lost, or,
okay.
so they're, taking maybe a little detour, and maybe, because Gary's had friends in Forbestown, they may have gotten off the main road in Oroville, and they may have turned onto Forbestown Road, but they missed a turn that they should have taken, and that's how they end up in this area where the car is found.
Okay.
Maybe,
Okay.
maybe.
And they would have, for that to be true, there would have been like, okay, cool basketball game. Let's go home, and let's stop and get some snacks, and then, oh hey, you guys want to go visit my friend in the opposite direction, and then flipped it around.
Right.
So it wasn't just like, oh, that was a fun basketball game. What's next? It was
Yeah, like maybe a last
like
minute detour.
it was
And
a
you don't have a cell phone to call your
sure.
parents. Maybe you think, when I get to my friend's house in Forbestown, I'll call my mom and say, hey, we're staying
Hey, we're gonna
over.
stay the night.
We'll see you tomorrow morning.
Yeah, which seems about right for 78. I mean,
Right.
that's about, we'll check in when we get there.
Yeah. Men in, mid to late 20s and early 30s. That
Yeah,
sounds, yeah.
yeah, that sounds fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
So why would they abandon a perfectly functional car and, run out into the woods? Theories are, okay, so they're lost. We only have a quarter of a tank of gas. Maybe we should start trying to find if there's some place or somebody out here that we can ask for directions.
Okay.
Right.
In all different directions.
Right.
Hmm.
Well, maybe not at the time, but they
Okay.
come across the, other car, Jack Sean's car, and maybe they were like, oh, what if we went like this way? And, even though Jack is pretty sure they heard him.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. Like he's pretty sure, but I don't know if I can be sure that he's
Right.
How
3
much?
men, a woman, and a baby.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's, interesting that Gary was most likely very physically fit. He was in the army and he also had a full-time job as a landscaper. You know, um, Jack Madruga, whose car it was, had also been in the army, but he had worked in a factory, but that both
Right.
of them are young and, you know,
Yeah.
physically fit and healthy. It's so weird that,
Mm,
Ted is found covered in like tucked in and with blankets and deceased. He'd been there for, maybe 2 months.
yeah.
I mean, it's so, this is a really big, a really big mystery.
Yeah.
So Jack Sean's, what about the man in the car? So he, had driven up, got stuck, had a heart attack. It was like a mild heart attack, obviously, because he was able to get up later
Get
and
up
walk
and
down the
walk.
mountain,
Yeah.
right? So he sees this group and, was he delirious? Was it that,
Sure.
you know, two of the guys had longer hair and maybe he thought, that was a woman? It's, there's so much we don't know.
Yeah.
So here's things that are pretty odd about how they were found and how the circumstances. Jack and Gary both had driver's licenses, so they could have, to pass a driver's license test, you don't have to be a Mensa member, but you got to know some things.
Right.
So I don't, how mentally disabled were they? Their families put them on different degrees of intellectual
Right.
disability, like again, the spectrum. Jack had driven from Yuba City to Chico many, many times. Many times. He had never had a problem.
Yeah.
We do know that Ted Ware was clean shaven when they left, and he is found with a very long, full
Mm,
beard. So he had to be alive. Your beard doesn't keep growing when you die. He had to be alive for a while,
right.
you know,
In the forest.
or in the
In this.
cabin
In the
without
snowstorm.
able to move and just lay there and die because he couldn't, because his feet were frostbitten.
Yeah. And maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe somehow set up snow as the water source, but didn't have a food source,
Right.
and starved.
So this is the weirdest theory I'm going to give you, okay?
Okay.
This is one I'm not putting any emphasis on, but I'm
Okay.
just going to, this is the last theory and it's pretty weird.
All right.
So this little town, Yuba City, Gary Mathias's sister was dating, in quotes, the town bully.
Okay.
Okay. Gary's sister uh, breaks up with the town bully and he makes a very vengeful human being.
Okay.
Every member of Gary's family had been bullied by the town bully, every member,
Mm,
after she broke up with him. At some point, they're thinking, at some point after the basketball game, they ran into the town bully
okay.
and, he did terrible things to them. One theory is that Gary had been thrown into Lake Oroville. That's why his body was never found.
Oh, okay.
That's why his shoes were in the cabin, but his body was never found. And the other guys ran, out of fear.
All right.
And Ted couldn't run because of his, um, frostbitten feet.
Got it.
Now, this is interesting, and it's all hearsay, okay? So hang with me. The town bully is sentenced to prison in the 80s for
For something else.
something else,
Got it.
and he finds God,
Okay.
and he becomes a preacher. So he is known as preacher slash town bully.
Okay.
In 1994, the Yuba City Police get a message from a member of this Pentecostal church where a man admits to several murders
Oh.
in front of an entire congregation.
Okay.
The official claim is that this man shared that he had admitted to 2 out of 7 deaths of retarded men in the hills 17 years ago.
Okay.
So it's 94. That would have been 77, but 78 is close enough.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know why there'd be 7 men, because there were only 5.
Are there 2 more
I don't know.
nearish
Yeah,
stories? I
people, a
mean,
guy playing a banjo.
I meant, are there 2 other murders that are
Oh, sorry.
unsolved in this
Oh, sorry.
in this section?
Sorry, I meant all at once. Sorry, I got the
Right.
yeah. Sorry.
You sure do have a pretty mouth.
Exactly. So it's Ned Beatty,
Uh-huh.
a guy playing a banjo,
Uh-huh.
and 5 guys who had gone to a basketball game, and he
Uh-huh.
kills 2 of them. Wonder which 2.
Good.
Ned Beatty went on to, have a career. Maybe the banjo guy, and maybe Gary Mathias is in Lake Oroville,
Oh,
and he
God.
keeps his shoes and brings them to the cabin.
Oh, yeah. Did they ever check the shoes for
Pig shit? No? Wrong? I don't know.
squeal?
Is squealing? Did
Yeah.
his shoe squeak? No, I don't know.
Well, yeah. Wow. All right.
Okay. Hold on. I want to pause this because I need to get the phone number for Yuba City Police.
Good. So wait, this person admitted to a room full of people. Did they ever question and find did the police ever question this person that admitted to these murders?
That I don't know.
Okay.
The person, I guess maybe they considered it hearsay. The
Sure.
person who came forward said, I am not going to talk to anyone else because I'm afraid. I don't know if they were afraid that the town bully preacher would kill them.
Okay.
Someone came to the Yuba City Police and said, this is what I heard happened in front of this congregation.
Oh,
it's like a third person.
That person wasn't even in that room.
So they go to the person who said, hey, your friend said that you heard at a, Pentecostal church meeting, someone saying they killed 2 retarded males in the hills 17 years ago. And that person's like, no, I will not substantiate any of this because I'm afraid.
Huh. Okay.
Right. So that's why it's hearsay and why I'm not putting stock in it. The families all think something happened, and they could be right, or it could be just a terrible series of, there are things that are unexplainable. Why would they scatter? Why would they not figure out that the car is easy? I mean, 2 men who were very adept at driving, being in the military.
Right.
We can figure a way out of this.
And you would think that as an army, the soldier would have some sort of survival training.
And they were young. It wasn't like it had been 40 years ago.
Right.
Even that, it would still kick back in. Right. But they were not, not that far away from their service.
Yeah.
Those kind of survival skills would.
Yeah.
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 So many questions, way more questions than answers.
It doesn't, I mean, I guess to me, it doesn't sound like they were as mentally disabled as necessary. It sounds like they were very functional.
Right.
So I'm wondering what the heck else happened.
Right.
Because, okay, a series of things could happen, and and then poor decisions or whatever.
Sure.
But 3 months worth of poor decisions, or know,
it wouldn't take 3 more months for the snow to melt.
Sure. Yeah. Like I could see, something happened for a few nights, and what,
mm-hmm.
and but then you go back, then you find a phone, a cabin
mm-hmm.
in the woods with a phone, or you go back to the car, and I don't know.
The fact that there were enough supplies to have lasted for a while, not just a minute or a day.
Right.
There were supplies that could have kept them going until somebody came up with a good plan or somebody found them or something.
Right.
That's what's so odd.
Yeah.
Unless it was like they all scattered and they died of hypothermia and frostbite and they just died. Except for Ted, who laid there. I, am laying here and dying for months.
For months.
Mm-hmm.
And starved to death for months. And yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think there was some kind of foul play.
I think so too, but I can't imagine why. There wouldn't be robbery for a choice, not a sexual assault unless it were the guy that played the banjo.
Sure. Well, okay, not sexual assault on the frostbite one in the cabin, but we don't know anything about anybody else. If you only find somebody's spine, I mean, you can't tell at that point how beat up or whatever.
Right. It's 1978, forensics, so I don't know, but I don't know that there were any weapon marks.
Sure.
Maybe there wasn't enough to be found, because of the scavenger,
Right.
But it was almost like they ran into the snow and then fell and died. And that's an odd scenario too.
Yeah.
Right.
Huh.
I know if I know anything, I know the tipsters have theories, really good questions. If they don't have answers, I bet they have great questions that I would love to hear. So if you know anything about this case, which I'm going to say you probably don't because everyone's too young to have been hanging around in 78. But if you do, please call the Yuba City Police Department at 530-822-4660. And if you have any theories, I would love to hear them. You can always call us at 832-TIPSTER. That's 832-847-7837. If you have a tip on a missing person or unsolved homicide, or you just want to suggest a case like the terrible tipster Charlotte.
Thanks a lot,
yeah,
Charlotte.
Thanks, Charlotte. I'm going to be not sleeping again for nights wondering what the fuck happened. Please give us a call at 832-TIPSTER. That's 832-847-7837. You can email us at jttipsters@gmail.com. You can find us on any of the social media platforms, just the Tipsters Facebook page, at JT Tipsters on Instagram, at JT Tipsters Pod on Twitter. And remember, please leave a rating and review so poor Joshua doesn't have to be pay me for being here or electroshocked on the nipples with jumper cables.
Please.
And more cowbell.
If you would like to support this podcast and get early access and other cool murderous swag, go to patreon.com/justthetipsters.